Hi, this is Allison Bonilla. I'm your Focus Life coach. I'm coming to you today because I'm really excited about a recent coaching call that I had. This client is a woman of God, a woman of purpose, and she just had a vision from God. Have you ever been there? Have you ever had like a vision from God to say, this is your purpose. This is what I have given you all these experiences for. So now that you could pour out and pour back into the lives of other people. Well, that's how I'm doing this. And I resonated with her because this is how she's doing what she wants to do, not what she wants to do, but what God has called her to. So I know this young woman, and she is just on fire for the Lord. And God has given her a message that came through so many hard things in her life. As we were talking, I said to her, listen, you are out there to teach people not from your wounds, but from your scars. You have these scars, you have these tales to tell, but you've survived and you made it. And she is. So she's passionate. God has given her an understanding of where all her pain is going to lead and why it is a foundation of some of the purpose that he's put in her. But when we talked, and the reason for our call was she was stalled. She knew it. It was a fire in her bones. It was burning in her bones. She knew what she had to do, but she said, Elsa, I can't articulate it. People ask me, and I'm not sure how to say it and what it is and what it's going to look like. I kind of sort of know, but I'm not sure. And so many questions. So I took her back to basics. I took her back to tell me when this fire first got ignited. What was going on in your life? So we went back and she talked about it. And as she talked, I took some notes. And after a while, she started talking about the plan. I said, no, let's not even go there yet. Let's talk about what brought you to it. So we went a little bit deeper. And as she talked, she started to be able to articulate, this is where God was calling her. We were able to find out who her clients are, who her ideal clients are, how she could address them, what would be their pain points, what would be the thing that would get them interested in her and her program. We wrote it all down. It resonated with her. She went from confused to clear. She went from being stalled to being reactivated because she was activated by the Lord for this, but the Lord didn't drop a game plan in her lap. And she was like, I know what I need to do, but I don't know what it's supposed to look like and what the steps are. So I was so happy to be part of that process with her. And that's why I enjoy coaching. I don't give my clients anything but a clear road and a roadmap. I help them move the boulders out of the way, the things that they're going to stumble over. After we became clear on her ideal client and the purpose and the message and the pain points, and she was able to articulate that clearly, then we moved into what the program actually looked like. And there she had some issues also because she had a sense of what it's supposed to look like, but she wasn't sure if one format would be better than the other. So we talked about the benefits and the detriments of both ways of doing it. And the more we talked, the clearer she became. She said, no, if I do it this way, plan B, I'm not going to be able to bring out these elements. So plan A seems better. So we talked about the benefits, and we talked about something important, support. We don't do this alone. I didn't do what I did, what I accomplished alone. I had people around me who supported me. And we talked about the kind of support she would need. Some prayer support, some people who are going to be her cheerleaders, because the road gets tough when you're moving towards your purpose and your destiny. And the enemy is out there like a roaring lion seeking who he will devour. And if you're out there on your own, you are prey. Okay? So yeah, we got to be prayed up so that we're not prey. So we are looking for her prayer partners. So she identified some people and said, you've got to write down the vision, make it plain so the runners that run will run with it. They are going to be your runners. They are going to be the people who are clearly going to understand what you're about because you've told them and you've told them what to pray for. So guys, if you have a vision out there, if you have something that you really want to do, don't hold it in there. I'm not saying you should blast it out to everybody until, it's in some form of completion that it makes sense. But Surround yourself with a couple of prayer partners, people who could understand your vision, people who could help you maybe clarify it. I'm a coach. I do that professionally, but maybe there are people who could do that and they're not coaches, and that's fine too. She had been talking to somebody else, a family member who was a supporter with her, but didn't have the skill to do what I did with her. She said, I've been talking to this person and he's been really helpful, but he didn't break it down for me the way you did, Allison. I'm coming away with a plan. I'm just not up here in my head all the time. I actually know what I need to do as the next step. And that's the value of coaching. And I even said that to her. I said, that's why you invest in yourself. That's the value of coaching. People will love you and they'll support you and they'll say, yeah, 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 we're your cheerleaders. But many times they don't really have the ability to confront you and to say, hey, listen, did you think about this and think about that? Because as we talked, I would point out some obstacles to her and I'd say, how do you want to address that obstacle? And her amazement was like, I hadn't even thought about that, but you're right, Allison. That would be a potential deterrent for somebody coming into my program. That would be an objection. I said, well, how would you address that objection? So we were able to look at some of the things that might be potentially difficult for her to get people in her program. So she left there with a strategy identifying people who could be her supporters. We talked about funds. We talked about how are you going to provide for this program? How much is it going to cost? And how much are you willing to invest in it? And is there a way to go about this program without having to put so much financial resources behind it? Is there a way you could scale it, where you could start a little bit small and move up? I frequently meet people who have these big visions. And God has given them this big vision, and it's wonderful. And I can't speak for God. God's going to speak in your life. But if he's going to give you a big investor, he's going to open these big doors for you, hey, go for it. But many times we start small. I started off my business in private practice over 25 years ago. I started small. I rented from someone. I had 1 or 2 clients. Then a year or 2 later, I was so happy. I was up to like 10 clients. And even that wasn't a lot, I didn't take a paycheck for, I think, about 2 years while I built my business. I was fortunate because God had given me the opportunity to build that way, in a way where I did not put my house at risk. I had a supportive husband who helped take care of me, and I wouldn't have been able to do it, but that was God's provision. And as he built, I was able to build my business to the point that I was not only paying myself a healthy salary, I was also paying a salary to my office manager. So I got to the point where I even hired somebody. I bought my building, I owned it, but that took time. And that took time where I was able to build consistently. So God gives you a vision. I don't say that the vision needs to be scaled back, but I say that sometimes you need somebody to say, okay, let's walk before we run. We don't want to stumble and fall along the way. We don't want to trip. Let's look at what tools we have in our hands. So we looked at people who could support her financially. We looked at people who could be able to invest in her and invest in her program. Then we talked about charging. How much should she charge for the program? We explored a couple of ideas, and she liked one of them more than the others. And we're like, okay, if you're comfortable with that, that's what you're going to go with. We coach. We had 2 hours of intense coaching, and she left with a game plan. I had all my notes down, and she's like, oh, I need to take those notes. I said, nope, I keep them so that when we talk, I'll be able to hold you accountable for them. But what I'll do is I'll make a copy of them for you. So I made a copy of the notes for her. She clutched them in her hands and says, okay, I've got my business plan, my game plan. I know where to go. Oh my goodness, I didn't expect I'd get all of this out of my meeting with you today, Allison. And she did. Guys, is there somebody in your life who could do that for you? If you don't, I'm here and I'm available. I love doing that for women. I love doing that for women of God who have been given a godly purpose, a godly vision, and they want to execute it, and they want to execute it with excellence. There are times when you need people to speak into your life with honesty. I'm not your relative who's going to be careful about your feelings. There are times I had to confront her about a couple of things. And that's why I said to her, you have to work from your scars, not your wounds. Because if this is something that's still bleeding, and something that still needs care and attention, you're not going to be able to speak the health and the life into the others that you want to help with this program. But she was in a place of health and healing. She had gone through something, and she was definitely operating from her scars and not her wounds. So this was an all go as far as I could see. But there are people I've met where I've said to them, I don't know that this is the thing that you should be engaged in right now. You should be more engaged in self-care and taking care of yourself. And that's sometimes I lose a client like that because they think I'm not in alignment with their vision. No, I'm in alignment with God's vision for health for that individual, because I think that's where you could pour health into another person's life. But anyhow, that's a whole other video that I might make at another date. I'm here to tell you, when you are feeling that God has called you, get a good coach. Get someone who is able to envision what it is that you've envisioned, and also able to take you back and say, okay, what are the steps? What are the things that you need? What are the strengths? What are the things you currently lack? What are the things that you have in your hands? How could we put them all together like a wonderful ingredient and make this end product that glorifies God and honors Him and benefits you too? Because I think there is a benefit to you, both personally and financially, in some of these things. If you'd like to talk to me, feel free to give me a shout out. My information is available, and I'd be happy to work with you in that instance. This was 2 hours from confusion to clarity for this client. Can that 2 hours be yours? Okay, give me a call. Allison Bonilla, your Focus Life Coach.